Welcome back. This is Andy Tube, and this is part 6 of a series of restoration of a Singer button style foot pedal. And we're at the point now that we're going to reassemble the foot pedal, doing a little adjustment as we do so, and get it all back together and test it out. So I usually start with the plate, the bottom plate, and for me I call this the cord end, where this pinches the cord for strain relief, and the other end the button end, because that's where the button goes. And the top or open part of this U shape goes towards the button. And you see with the two holes here for the screws, they're at about a 45-degree angle, and as they are here. And the screw holes for the wires of the cord have to go up. So if we turned it the other way, we couldn't get the cord on and the screw holes wouldn't line up. So we're going to put our fiber washers back in here, and there's impressions from the brass screw holder there, and I put those back down so they're the same way that I took them off. And then I'm going to set that over them as best as I can, and I'll take the two medium length screws here. They've kind of got this built-in or attached washer on the top, and we'll set those in, and we'll try and line them up just by hand with our fingertips here and finger tighten them. Yep. Okay. If you look down in there, you can see the white edge of the one fiber washer by this forward screw. Okay. Then I'm going to snug these up fairly well. I don't want them vibrating loose, but I don't want to tighten so hard that I crack this resistor container. Okay, pretty good. Now, next I want to put in my steel plate with the brass shorting spring that we cleaned up so nice. Wait a second, let me get these on here. Okay, so I'm going to take my longest screw for that and put it from the back side of the steel plate through it. Then I have to put my tension spring on there. This is the one we coated with oil after we washed it. It sets up in there in a little area right there, and then I'll put it through the center and drop it down in there like that. Now we have a little sometimes these are brass, sometimes they're silver. This one's brass, but we're going to put that on that screw about halfway. That's kind of the lock nut. Once we get this in, we tighten it up against this. Now this has to go in with see how it kind of comes down here like a spatula part, and then it's raised, and the screw holes towards the top. That's how you want to put it in there, so that it will go. You push on the back of this so it will go in there like that. Matter of fact, I'm going to put that nut on a little farther. Now, there's two sets of ears or tabs. When you slide this on the screw, the first set has to go in this slot here, and that holds this stable so you can get the rocking, springy motion. Okay, so with that first set of tabs in the bracket, we'll hold it in place, and we'll push this up and in through the screw, and that's how it's going to look, right? Like that. Now with this retaining clip, I told you it's got ears on the sides. Those are going to point towards the button, and the little fold over tabs on the top, they need to be on the top, and they need to point back towards the cord. If you put it on any other way, it won't sit tight and it'll eventually get loose. And I have repaired, people have brought me their pedals that they tried to clean and adjust and couldn't get working, and really that was about the only problem they had caused, was putting that retaining clip on backwards. So I'm going to hold it in place in the front here and give that screw a few turns to try and get it in there. Started in that retaining clip. Yep. Of course it doesn't want to do it because I'm filming. So let's try again. Get that in there. Try it again here. Once you get it started, it's not so fumbly. Right. But you don't want to force it. You don't want to strip the threads in that little clip. Okay, I got it on there about a 1/16 of an inch. So I just want to be sure you understand the tabs on the side have to point towards the button, and the tabs that come up and fold over the top of the clip do that so that it rests on the end like so. Come on in there. There we go. So we've got the basics of it here. What we want to do now, you see how this is floppy and loose like that. What we want to do is turn that in so it's a little bit past flush with the back of the ceramic piece here. Okay, so let's see if I can get a better close-up of that for you. That's a pretty good shot of the retaining clip. I haven't tightened the nut up against the back side here, but you see how that top tabs come over towards the nut. Now on the back side, you can see it's about flush right now, which is better than when I opened it up. When I opened it, it was very loose. And you have to remember, I took a carbon disc out of each side, so I'm going to give it a little crank here and take it in a little recessed. It's about a 32nd of an inch more. Might do that a little bit more. I think I want it to be about a 1/16 of an inch. Like that. That looks good. And I've got my first set of tabs or ears resting in the bracket, so that when I put the button over here, you can see that the tension spring inside is going to be rocking on this rock mechanism. So that looks pretty good to me. Now I want to tighten up this brass nut against these two pieces of metal to clamp it in place. And if you have a little open end wrench, that would be good. I can't find mine today. I've been doing so much filming and stuff, I haven't cleaned my workbench in a while. But I'm just going to use this pair of needle nose here to go in and just snug that up. If you remember back when I opened it, this was loose, this was not tightened up. And I think that allowed this to work its way loose. And that's why it wasn't in very good adjustment. But this feels real good now. Okay, so I have to get these little shorting clips in the front here, and some of these are straight and some are angled like this. So you can see that's at a little angle, right? Some are straight, and I don't know why or what the difference is, but they all will be kind of bent over at the end so that they'll rest up against the silver metal part like that. And then see that? And then we'll just put the little screw in here. See, that's the bigger wire screw, there's the little screw, and tighten that up. Up. Oh my. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do both of these. I'm going to do the one on the other side, and then I'll show you how they look. Okay, that's how they look when they're installed properly. That folded tab on this side rests up against this silver screw bracket, and then the screws put in. Now, like I said, these are bent in a little, and that's common, and I've also seen where they're not bent at all, that they're straight. But as that, when you press on the button, you see that spring goes in and starts pushing on that carbon pile and making more compression, so more electric will flow. And when you get far enough down, you hit these shorting bars and you're just full out sewing. Right through the electricity, goes right through here. Okay, so that looks nice. I've got that recessed in there about a 1/16 of an inch. I've got my locking nut on, got my shorting tabs. I'm in here so that it rocks back and forth. Looks good. Let's put on the wire. So of course your wire is not plugged into anything. And if you remember, when we were taking this off, I said you might want to snap a picture. But if you look at it, this one just curves up around this mounting screw, and this wire curves around the other mounting screw. So if you put them on like this, you'd be crossing over both mounting screws and causing friction. So that's what these black tubes are, like protector tubes, and they just slide around. So when you go to screw these on, I want you to slide them back from that circle, and you can see some of the vinyl coating on the wire, because that vinyl coating fits in these little tabs right there to hold it secure. So we'll put that on and we'll tighten it up, and then we can slide that protector sleeve back down. Okay, let me get my screw started in there. So I've got that vinyl, not the black because it doesn't fit. I've got the little vinyl wire coating between the tabs there to keep it lined up straight. And then I'll tighten this screw, and this can be tightened pretty firmly because it's a metal to metal connection. And then I'll just slide my protector tube back up. So we'll slide this down a little bit so we can get that vinyl in between the tabs. And we'll put this screw in there. And again, we will tighten that up pretty good. And these can be tightened very good also. Alright. So on some of these you may have a metal and plastic ring right here that fits behind a slot for strain relief. On this particular one, you can see that there's like little teeth on this molded part right there, and then inside the cover there's a couple of slots for those teeth. So when you put this back on, you'll get the cord in there, and that pinching of the cord is going to provide your strain relief. Okay. Alright. Now one thing that I do, and this is optional, there's nothing about this in any literature. When I mentioned it to the couple of retired Singer repairmen I know, one said, "Hey, that's probably a good idea," and the other was like, "Eh, whatever." But I take a little of this Tri-Flow clear synthetic grease, and is what I use, and I get just a dab of it, and I just put it up here on this swivel, because oil's not going to stay there very long, and you may not have to open this up for years. So I just put a little bit of grease on there. I don't put grease on the plastic or anything else, but I just put a little bit on there. And if it collects dust, and 5 or 10 years from now I open this back up and I say, "Wow, look at the dust that got stuck on that," I'll just clean it with crud cutter and it won't matter. So like I said, that's optional. That's just a habit of mine. Okay. Now, this is also optional, and it has to do with the rubber feet. Remember, I soaked them in alcohol and scrubbed them, and my grandpa used to do that on his old Chevy truck windshield wipers, and he told me that if he did that every few months, that the wipers lasted twice as long in the Arizona heat. So what I do is put a little bit of this oil on there. The same oil I use. Here's a better shot of it. This is Triflow Superior Lubricant, PTFE. Now, you could also just put the Singer All-Purpose Machine Oil on your machine. That's like $3 at Walmart. This is about 8 maybe. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and coat these guys with a coating of oil. And the oil will kind of soak in, and then what doesn't soak in I'll just rub off. But to me it helps keep them from oxidizing and drying out and cracking. And at $12 for a set of 4, it's worth a penny or two worth of oil, you know. Especially when we've got all the oxidation off and cleaned them up so nice with the alcohol. And don't they look all nice and black and shiny anyway? So it's worth it just for that right there. Now remember, these are held in place by pressure between the bottom plate and the top cover. The screws don't hold these in. Right? We talked about that before. So let me just slide my protective tube up there to the screw. Alright. And we're going to slide these on the corners like that. And just slide on there. Right? All 4. We've checked that everything is tight, and our shorting bar is about 1/16 of an inch. Now when we go to test this, if that didn't quite do it, we can pop the cover off, loosen the retaining nut, and screw it in a little farther, or back it out a little more, you know, to fine tune it. But the main thing is cleaning stuff and getting that carbon dust out. So let me find the screws here and we'll put the cover on.